Greetings, students. We have already learned the tsunami chapter. In our last live session, we had cross questions about this chapter. Now, we in this video are going to have a revised summary, a short summary, which will be helpful for you for your UT and for your term exams also, right? So let us start. Basically, what is tsunami? The tsunami refers to a very large and a powerful wave in the sea. It is caused by some earthquake under the sea. The chapter refers to a catastrophic earthquake occurred on December 26th in 2004. The chapter tells us the survival stories of people who not only fought for their lives bravely but also contributed towards saving others while this calamity hit several countries. The worst affected parts were coastal parts of India, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Thailand. Some 150,000 people lost their lives, but animals suffered very few casualties. Perhaps they had sensed the coming earthquake and they ran to the safer, higher places. This lesson recounts a few stories of bravery and intelligence when the tsunami hit the Andamans. The first story in the chapter is about Ignatius, the manager of a cooperative society in Kachal. He was woken up by his wife at 6 a.m. The family rushed out of the house. When the earth stopped shaking, the sea started rising. The waves washed away his 2 children and in-laws. But his 3 other children were saved because they were with him. Another story is about Sanjeev, who was a policeman. He managed to save himself, his wife and daughter from the waves. But soon he heard cries for help from the wife of John, the guest house cook. He jumped into the water to rescue her. But both were washed away. 13-year-old Meghna was carried away along her parents and 77 other people. She held on to a wooden door for 2 days without food and water. 11 times the relief helicopters flew overhead, but they could not spot her. However, she was brought to the shore at last by a big wave. Almas Javed was a 10-year-old student of a convent school in Port Blair. Her family had gone to another island to celebrate Christmas. Almas's father saw the sea waves receding in the morning. The father understood that the waves would come back with force. He tried to take his family to a safer place, but her father and the grandfather were swept away by a giant wave. Her mother and aunts were washed away too. Almas climbed onto a wooden log. She later was found herself in hospital. There is another story from Thailand. The Smith family. The Smith family was celebrating Christmas at a beach resort. The parents had 2 daughters. The water kept coming in on 26th December 2004. But little Tilly Smith sensed the danger ahead. She recalled the geography lesson that tsunami could be caused by quakes, volcanoes, and landslides. She called her family to get out of the beach area. Her parents went up to the 3rd floor of the hotel and survived. Thus, her geography lesson saved their lives. How nice! Tilly Smith, this small girl, utilized her classroom knowledge to save people's lives in the time of emergency, in the time of crisis. Right. While humans lost their lives, wild and domestic animals sensed the danger in time. Elephants ran for higher grounds, and the dogs, birds, and zoo animals looked for safer places. Perhaps animals possess a 6th sense. They feel the tremor long before humans realize. So, not many animals were reported dead. at Yala National Park in Sri Lanka. No dead bodies of animals were found while 60 visitors were washed away. You see, there are two theories about the same have been mentioned in the chapter. One theory is based on the belief of people, and the other one is based on the scientific explanation. The first one says animals do possess sixth sense, and how and what they possess in their sixth sense is answered by they have such an acute sense of hearing. So anything unusual that happens into the crust of earth, underneath, deep down, the vibration that are passed through the ground, they can hear and sense and feel those vibrations so acutely, better than humans. So they come to know before humans that they need to now flee to the safer and higher altitude places, which they have done. So less animals were found dead and more loss of human lives. Right. So the theme here was what? What have you learned? What was the central thought in this chapter for you? The courage, our sense of courage. One is expected to act courageously in the time of emergencies. Even if you are scared, frightened when you are seeing all over the animal carcasses and the dead bodies are floating on the surface and you yourself are in need of help, you still have to pull together, you have to still pull through and act bravely as much as you can. Only then you will be able to survive. And why only you? You have to act so that you can save others' lives as well around you. Yes, that is possible only if you gather a lot of courage. You actually have to act more courageously than you are in the time when it is required. Right? Okay, so that was one theme there. Another was survival in crisis. Right? Natural calamities do not give you any pre-warning before their arrival. Right? The weather forecast people can do so. However, it can come any time without giving you any time to flee. So you should act in that manner. You act more courageously. Only then you can survive in this crisis. See how Tilly Smith acted. It was so quick. She just recalled all what she had learnt in her class and she realized that this is unusual. The sea was behaving in a strange manner. This was not usual. So something not normal is going to happen. So we need to flee to a safe place. And they did, and they survived. Not only the family, but so many other people Tilly managed to save. So this is how you are expected to, act. Yes. Another thing in the last part of the chapter is about less animals were found dead. Right? So this was, as I had discussed earlier, this is based on two theories. One that is based on the human belief, and the second one is based on the scientific explanation, which is given by science, right? What we have learned from this chapter, why this chapter is given to you, the tsunami, it has a purpose. What? We should realize the importance of doing whatever is possible to save both the human and animal's life during the crisis. That is one thing that we have learned. Another thing is to participate in relief work and to understand the concept of disaster management. Why do you think the NDRF teams during every rainy seasons are posted in those coastal areas? It is because they are at the risk of drowning when the bigger sea waves hit the shore. And that is why, in case if those areas are flooded and the water enters the city area, then NDRF teams, this is what they do, the rescue work. You see, so when you have saved your life, you can't get away by stating that, oh, I am saved and now I am not interested in saving someone else's life, or I cannot help, I am exhausted, I am dying of hunger and whatsoever. It is our moral responsibility, right? That you have to help as much as you can and as long as you can to save others' life. Right. One should show acts of courage, care and compassion in the bitter struggle of survival and rehabilitation. Right. Rehabilitation, they are also, such centers are also known as rehab centers. These centers are established to help people bring back to their normal life. You see, those traumatized people, those who met with an accident, those who lost their memory, such centers are established for them, built up for them, right? So you also get to understand this concept. Tsunami is a natural calamity that causes huge destruction and a loss of life and property. Now, in this story, what we have learnt alongside the story of deep sorrow, when you see people are drowning, shouting, screaming for help, you see there is something, it is very difficult for you to behave in normal manner. You panic stricken, you're scared, you're frightened for your life, so this is a difficult time. However, alongside the story of deep sorrow, one can see there are reassuring details of courage, survival, and resilience. Such things you have seen in this chapter. It is not easy to survive on a wooden log. It is not easy when you see your beloved, your family members are drowning, they are into trouble, and you are standing there helpless, cannot do anything. This is traumatizing situation. You see, so rehabilitation centers are built up for these people to bring them back to normal life. So you, as a good citizen, you are supposed to help such people as much as and as long as you can, right? So this was a very good message that is coming out from the chapter, right? Now the next poem is the geography lesson. Perhaps you are surprised, why am I supposed to learn geography lesson in English? But once you finish learning the poem, you come to know what you have learned. And you have learned this poem. Here what we are doing is we are only taking a small recap of the summary. Right. What was the central thought and the theme of this poem? Through the confusion of the child, the young speaker in the poem, a beautiful message is conveyed, which is the theme here, the central thought. The child learns about the earth being round, means one. But he fails to find such oneness amongst the residents of earth. He says that he is unable to witness the universal kinship. The word is kinship. That is the brotherhood. And the sense of sacrifice for each other is missing on this earth. The poem speaks about the achievements of human beings, the advancements of science, and has gotten a lot of knowledge about the earth and all other things in space. That means we have become more advanced. We have attained a lot of knowledge. We have invented new things, discovered, but we have failed in something else on the other side. We are now learnt about the earth's shape and how the cities have come into existence, but we have utterly failed in one thing, that is to love each other and to live peacefully, to live in harmony on this beautiful planet called Mother Earth. Because humans find reasons to fight with each other, to kill each other, yes, to feel jealous about each other. All such things also we have made advancements. This is what the poem says. What message comes out from the poem? The message that is conveyed here is mankind should leave fighting amongst them and should promote the spirit of global connection and tie with each other without any bias or caste, the bias of caste, creed, color, gender, religion, or any. According to the child who is a young speaker, if the one who has created this earth for living beings has not considered any partiality or any preconceptions, why humans should perform such ill practices as killing each other and causing harm and causing suffering and find reasons to hate each other? He gives this message to all to be united as one, like one earth. The poem suggests harmony in diversity, coexistence amongst different ethnic groups. In other words, the poet wishes to convey the irrational and illogical grudges and grievances that people nurture for each other. The poet fails to understand why people discriminate and judge on the basis of regional and territorial lives, when geography and nature does not establish such differences. It does not have such malpractices anyway, but we humans do. Some important points are there. For an example, the usage of poetic device. Usually the poets employ many poetic devices to make their poem very interesting, to decorate the poem, to grip the audience, right? To grip his readers. To create and rouse a lot of interest, they use different poetic devices such as alliteration, metaphor, simile, personification, refrain. One such poetic device is refrain. Yes, the use of onomatopoeia. The onomatopoeia is the employment of sound words. Yes, such as buzz. What is this word? This is a sound word. It has come from the sound of the buzzing of bee. Right. So they use these devices to create interest amongst their readers. What poetic device has been used here by the poet? Refrain is, what is refrain? Refrain is perhaps a verse, a line, a set of words, or perhaps a group of lines that appears at the end of stanza or appears where the poem divides into different sections when the stanza changes. Here the refrain is, there are two lines that are being repeated here. When jet sprung into the sky and when jet reached 10,000 feet. Now why is he using this line two times in the stanza? Is to create that imagery. The poet wants us to imagine that the airplane goes at different heights, and from those heights, from those altitude, he could see the ground differently. And he keeps on recording what he has seen in all the stanzas till we reach the last stanza. By repeating the same lines at the end of the stanza, the poet creates an effect here of imagining the movement of the airplane and the size of the earth at different level. Let's talk about somewhat what is the tone of the poem, right? Now what is the tone called in the poem? The tone of the poem is the attitude you feel in the poem, or the writer's attitude towards his or her audience, the subject, the content. Sometimes tone can also mean the general emotional weather of the poem. In the opening stanzas of geography lesson, the poet adopts a fairly descriptive tone because he describes how the earth looks right from the different heights. Right? He says when it's called 6 inches, then it's called 10,000 feet, and then 6 miles. You see? So at different heights, what he has seen right from there, he had recorded. So he describes, that means the poem goes into descriptive tone. Right. He describes the landscape the way he views it from the certain height. He carefully records the height that the plane attains and the way that alters his view of the city. However, as the poem progresses, especially in the final stanza, the tone of the poet becomes thoughtful and truth-seeking. He ponders over the reasons as to why man has become an enemy of man. Why is he willing to kill people of his own species and so on? And that is very thoughtful him. Thoughtful of him, yes. He's very careful. He thinks about what is happening around him. Yes, that's very kind of him. Talking about the title, let's comment on the title of the poem and try to justify whether this title was suitably given to the poem or any other title is also suitable. The poem has been titled Geography Lesson and has been titled quite suitably. For the reason the poet learns a lesson from the geography, isn't it? The science of... Right. He was able to understand that the city that looked unplanned when viewed from the ground had been developed in accordance with the needs of men. It was therefore not unplanned, but it is just beyond the understanding of common men. Because water attracted men, wherever there was an access to water, men has settled and the civilization established. Right? Therefore, rather than continuously criticizing the city, man should be rather thankful for the comforts that he has. Men should, on the other hand, try to derive answers to the mystery behind men's hatred and the animosity towards another man. Animosity here refers to the rivalry and enmity. Why man hates men? Why man fights with other men? Why can't we all live in the integrity, in oneness? We are all brothers. We cannot, differentiate people based on the different religion, based on the, the color or any other bias. Because the one who has created us has never practiced such biases. So that is another beautiful message that comes out from this poem. Now, when you, after reading the revised summary, if you still feel that you have a doubt, kindly jot them down on the paper and during the live session, we can discuss about them. Right? Till then all, we meet again. Keep learning, please. Stay home and stay safe.